How to make a bootable drive. Memow and I are going to walk you through this. I do want to point out that my Windows does look a little weird, mainly because I'm just running it in a virtual machine. I want to show everybody that is more than likely on Windows that wants to move to Linux how to do this from Windows. So I'm going to show you two ways on how to do this. The first one is Rufus. You're going to search for Rufus. Alright, Rufus. Here we go. Rufus.ie. There you go. That's where you're going to want to go. Rufus.ie. Okay, you're going to go here. And you're going to click on the download, the first one. This is Rufus-4.7.exe. That is an ad. Don't click on that. You really should be using a ad blocker. Like I said, this is a fresh install of Windows in a virtual machine, so I don't have any of that crap installed at the moment. But yeah, definitely want to use an ad blocker. And if you don't know how to do that, I can always make a video of that too. So let's go ahead and open Rufus. I'm gonna click yes. Do you want to? Sure, that's fine. Here under device, you would be able to normally see your USB. You would make sure to choose the correct USB, because if you have multiple drives connected, you might accidentally wipe whatever's on that drive. And if it's something important, you want to make sure that you have it backed up before doing so. Okay. And then for boot selection, you would go ahead and click disk ISO image, and then you would click select, and you would pick whatever ISO image you have downloaded, whether it be Windows, if you want to do a fresh install of Windows on a brand new built PC, a Linux ISO if you want to try out a distro, or Clonezilla if you want to clone one drive to another drive. That's also an option. Now what I highly recommend is actually this right here, Ventoy. So you're going to click on here, ventoy.net. Okay, and what Ventoy does, Ventoy is amazing. Okay, what Ventoy does is that when you create a bootable drive, what it does, it allows you to make one bootable drive, but for multiple ISOs. Okay, so that way you don't have to have one drive for your Windows ISO, one drive for a Linux ISO. You could just slap all those ISOs into that USB drive, and when you load up Ventoy through the BIOS, it'll have a list of all the ISOs that you have in that USB drive. So it's really handy. It's really useful, especially if you're going to be going through and trying out different distros and stuff like that. And what I mean by distros is like different flavors of Linux. So if you want to try out different flavors of Linux, there's Linux Mint, Arch, Debian, Ubuntu, Gentoo if you're a neckbeard. But there's a bunch of different stuff that you could try out, and it's really handy. It's really useful, especially since Linux, you can run it as a live CD. And what that means is that you can actually run Linux through the USB drive, so you could test drive it, make sure all your hardware works, make sure your Wi-Fi works or your Ethernet works, your display works, your mouse, your keyboard, make sure everything works before you decide to actually install it on your computer. Ventoy to disk. Alright, so you pick the device. This would be your USB drive. And if you don't see it, you click on that, that'll refresh it and it should pop up here. Okay, I don't have one hooked up at the moment. And then you're just gonna click install, and that's it. That's literally all you have to do. You know what? Let's pause here for a second. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna look for my Ventoy drive. I'm gonna plug it in here so you can see exactly what it looks like. Alright, let's go ahead and pick up back where we left off. Okay, so this is Ventoy on my USB drive. You can see here that what it does is it kind of creates like two drives from one. One of them is going to be the bootable drive, and then the other one is going to be just like a normal USB drive where you can just drag and drop a bunch of stuff. So you see I have a bunch of my ISOs here. I have some folders with other various things that I just put on here because, again, I could just use it as a normal USB drive, but it's still a bootable drive. So in this way, I'm able to, use this one USB drive for a multitude of things. It's very, very handy. So let's go back to this right here, Ventoy to disk, right? I'm going to go ahead and click on this to refresh. There you go. Look at that. It shows my USB drive. It shows the current version of Ventoy on my USB drive, and then it shows the updated version. So I'll go ahead and I'll click on this where it says update. But if you're doing a fresh install, you're going to click on install. The upgrade operation is safe. ISO files will be unchanged. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick. And there we go. So now look, the current version is the same that I have on my USB drive. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all there is to it, to making a bootable USB drive. You can either make a specific USB drive with a specific ISO if you really want to, or you can use Ventoy. You can use Ventoy, that way you could put multiple ISOs into that bootable drive. And you could put other stuff there as well. You could keep using it as a normal USB drive. Next, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to actually boot from this bootable device. So I'll do that in a moment. I'm going to have to restart my computer and kind of record this separately because I can't screen record while I'm going into the BIOS. So I restarted my PC. The first screen that you see when you first turn on your computer is the BIOS, and it's going to tell you what button to press. Okay, not all BIOSes are the same. All right, in my case, I can press delete to enter the BIOS. Okay, sometimes it'll also tell you a key to press for the boot menu, which you could use that as well. So this is my BIOS. I have my storage devices on the right, and I can choose the boot priority for the USB. But in this case, I have a boot menu, and I'm going to click on my USB drive, which is the SanDisk on the bottom, and then wait a little bit, and there we go. That is Ventoy. Okay, and why it's such a awesome thing is that all of these are my ISOs. Okay, all of these are my ISOs. If you were to use Rufus, you would only be able to make a bootable drive for one ISO, but with Ventoy, it lets you go ahead and just load up a bunch of ISOs. So if you wanted to try out different flavors of Linux, you could do that. All right, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and pick Fedora and pick the default, which is boot in normal mode. If it doesn't work, I can go ahead and just restart it and do it over again with a different option. And if you notice, it says test. What that's going to do is it's going to make a live version of the operating system. And why is this such a big deal that you could just run the operating system through the USB live? In other words, it's not installed on any drive. And the reason why that's such a big deal is that it allows you to make sure that your hardware is compatible with whatever operating system you plan on using, and two, it allows you to see what the operating system looks like. Now, don't be scared of all the crazy matrix hacker stuff that's going to be on the screen. That's normal. You see a bunch of green, it says okay, that means that's good. And there we are. We are running Fedora from the USB. This is not installed on my hard drive or my SSD. This is straight from the USB. Like I said, you can get familiar with it before deciding to commit to a particular distro. I'm making sure that my Ethernet works. You would want to test your Wi-Fi, make sure your Wi-Fi works, your internet, make sure your mouse, your keyboard, your headset, sound, audio, anything that you have, you want to make sure that it works before deciding to install a particular Linux distro. I hope Memow and I were able to help you out. If you're interested in more videos or tutorials or anything like that, please let me know. If you want more Memow, also let me know. Have a good one.